I'm just going to say what everyone else is thinking. So that six-figure dream career is a trap. And you may hate me for saying this, but the other truth is that you are working 80 hours a week, because some of y'all are working overtime, and you're making all this money or you're making this pay, and you're actually too tired to live the life that you want to live. And I don't know about you, but I get the ick when people are bragging on and on. Oh, I'm hustling. I'm making all this money. Oh, I'm in this dream career. I'm a VP. I'm doing all the things. But you know deep down inside that you hate your life and that the life you're living is a lie. And the thing that you don't want to hear is that you've been convincing yourself, okay, the next promotion I get, the career that finally gets me to $10,000 a month, because that's the number that everyone's been told that you need to get, you're finally going to live this life. But the truth is, when you walk away from perfection, that's actually when you have power. So you're going to want to watch this video because we're going to do a little bit of skincare and chat. But really what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about walking away from the career that is draining you. We're going to talk about how to actually decide whether or not you are feeling fulfilled, because a lot of you are clicking this video and you're asking yourself, this job that I have is not making sense. And even some of y'all are making all the money in the world, but you're not happy. So we're going to really talk about practical tips on how to audit your life, how to ask yourself if something's draining you, and really do the work so you know whether or not you're in the right career and if you're living a lie. What they don't tell you about this type of lifestyle is that the more you earn, the more expensive your life actually is. So you may ask, okay, Chika, what qualifies you to talk about this? So number one, I earned multiple six figures in different parts of my career, right? I was a tech recruiter, I'm in HR, so I see all the checks, okay? I see all the money that is spent, and I literally have offered someone over $1 million to work at a tech company, so I know what it means to be operating at the highest level. I know what it means to hustle and get the dream job, and I know what it means to have your whole life laid out and you consistently move up the steps and playing the political game. Because let's be honest, if you're working in a corporate job, you're most likely playing a political game. There's going to be different type of bureaucracy you have to get around. There's going to be people you have to warm up to. I know the game, okay? I've been in the game, right? And I'm retired from the game, and I want to now teach you, what does that game even look like? And the first part that you have to admit to yourself is you need a total reset, right? And I think about the time when I got an amazing job. And funny enough, I remember visualizing it. I remember manifesting it, and I said, hey, I want to work at this tech company. I really identify with the company and the mission. And I remember I went through 6 different interviews. It was a very difficult job. And I'll never forget the woman who ended up being my manager. And the fun part about this story is that I actually wanted to work at that company because of a male manager. And then they did the biddy switch, and all of a sudden I had this woman that I had to report to. And I said, you know what, no problem. I'm an individual contributor. As long as I am doing what I want to do and I'm killing it, everyone should leave me alone, right? And I remember probably my first week of working at this company, and she quickly wanted to keep reminding me, oh, you are a level 5, which was, quite high ranking. You're a level 5, and you're the highest level tech recruiter we have in this division, and there's just a lot of responsibility. And I was like, okay, sis, that's why I was hired, to do my job. And I just remember 3 months in, I'm consistently getting the money. I'm seeing my stocks. I am literally even seeing the potential of how much more I can make very quickly within 6 months, right? And I felt empty. And I truly, genuinely was doing a good job. In fact, I was moving quite quicker than any of the people that hired me expected me to move. I was hiring the right people. I was hiring people that they were spending years to recruit. And I felt empty, and I didn't feel any sense of real worth, right? And I didn't feel like I was in my purpose. And the reason why I talk a lot about this consistently is I think it's important that when you are trying to figure out what's your dream career, or whether you're supposed to continue on the path of being an employee of a company if you are actually fulfilling your purpose, right? And you can feel your purpose in a career. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people say is that, oh, the only way to be in purpose is to be working for yourself. That's not necessarily true. But you have to ask yourself, okay, if I am working in this company, is it a means to an end? Am I in this company because I actually think it's serving my purpose? Or what I always tell a lot of people is if you know deep down inside you want to be an entrepreneur and you eventually want to transition away from the corporate world, then the best thing for you to do is see your job as a safety net and see it as a fun. And really, when you are working in a company and you know you're living a lie and you know you don't want to work here and you know it's a means to an end, then every paycheck you get should be going into investing into new skills and investing into skills that eventually will be able to fund a life where you can be an entrepreneur. And I think, especially with the advent of content creators and different reality stars and things like that, I think a lot of people get the game messed up and they think that, oh yeah, if I just create content online or if I'm looking cute or a baddie or whatever, I can eventually make all this money. And a lot of creators don't make as much money as you think, okay? And I feel like at times, sometimes you can actually be richer staying at a job, but making sure you're at the right job and making sure you're in a career that you absolutely love and you feel fulfilled, right? So the first thing that I need you to do is I need you to do an audit, right? And what this audit is going to do is an energy audit. And I want you to list out all the different tasks that you do in your day-to-day job. And I want you to literally write next to it, is it draining me or fulfilling me, right? And, if you notice that, okay, half of the time I'm at work because most of your productive time you spend every day is at a job. If you are looking at all the different itemized lists and it's literally saying it's draining, it's draining, it's draining, then you really have to ask yourself the honest question, am I in a job that is fulfilling me, right? Or am I in this job just because it's something I'm good at? Right? And a lot of times that's what's happening. I was recently having a conversation with a very close friend of mine and, she's killing at her job. She's doing well and they keep promoting her. But she was like, you know what, I'm not fulfilled. And sometimes not being fulfilled is even less to do with the job itself, but it's because there's no balance. You're unable to, like I said in the beginning, live your life. You're unable to pour into your passions, into your hobbies, right? And the truth is you are living for your title and not for yourself. And that's the real crazy thing that a lot of y'all are doing out here. And so when she was telling me, I just feel so unbalanced, I feel like I have the golden handcuffs on me because a lot of people who are earning really good money or over six figures, they're in golden handcuffs. And what that essentially means is that it's golden. There's a mirage. It looks amazing. It looks beautiful. But on the inside, they're cuffed up like this and they're in a prison. And you're in a prison and you don't even know it. And so the other thing I told her to do, which is what I do quite often when I'm trying to just dream up and understand where I'm going, is I literally pull out my laptop or my phone and I upload either Gemini I've been really loving lately, or Claude, and I send it a voice note. And I literally say, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I enjoy, this is what I love, come up with a strategy around how I can reset my life. Come up with a strategy around how can I move towards this dream career. Maybe you are an accountant and you really love accounting, but you hate the industry you're in. Maybe you're in consulting. And like my friend, for example, she wanted to transition into tech. So I would voice note it, all my skill sets, what I've done, what I want to transition to. And I would literally ask it, how can I position myself in order to be in a job or career that is attracted to tech, right? Where recruiters will get me up. Recruiters will talk to me. Another good way to really walk away from a life that is just full of perfection. I need to continue my skincare. I'm just so into this conversation. I love it. This is something new I got when I was traveling in Vietnam. Is you also need to have your own personal brand. A lot of y'all don't have a personal brand. Your job, or actually your life, is I work at Google. My life is I work at Pinterest. My life is I work at the World Bank, and you don't have nothing going on besides that. And that's crazy. You need to have your own personal brand, because when you have your own personal brand, it doesn't matter if a company decides to do a layoff. It doesn't matter if the company is transitioning again and maybe they transition you to a department you don't like. You always have the option to leave. And I know there's a lot of people that are living a lie and living in a career that is a prison cell. A lot of times it's because they have put themselves in a position where they don't have a personal brand. And again, if I went back to advising this friend, I told her you need to be on LinkedIn. A lot of people are sleeping on LinkedIn. For the past 4 months, I have been serious about LinkedIn. And what I've seen is a huge amount of growth, and I've gotten so much engagement, but I get DMs. I'm constantly getting DMs of opportunities to speak, to connect, to do one-on-one coaching. And I realized that if more people were on LinkedIn besides just updating it for the resume, you would be in a power play position where you're not relying on what your company is doing. And the truth is, you're watching this video now and you're probably working at a company that's going to lay off people. The economy is going to keep shifting. They're going to keep laying off. And the way to be indispensable is to actually have a personal brand. And also, I think another interesting that's happening is because we are transitioning to what I believe is kind of like this analog. I think with AI, there's a lot of fake information, fake news. I think another interesting thing that we're transitioning into is these we used to do for Web 1.0, which is websites, so literally chikaowaze.com. I bought my domain website 10 years ago. And having a place or a space on the internet that is your own. Maybe it's opening a Substack. Like I said, having a LinkedIn, but have something that is beyond your resume. Have a life and a personal branding that lives beyond what's going on there, so that it's plug and play. And you want a situation where people are consistently reaching out to you. And really the best situation is, I believe, hybrid, which is, let's say you have a LinkedIn, you're constantly pushing, sharing your posts, sharing information, sharing things you're doing. The beauty is that recruiters can look at you. So again, you have options and you're not golden handcuffed to a job or a situation you don't like. But also people and I did this the other day. There's a girl that I know is in influencer marketing and she gives great advice on TikTok. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, I know that this is what you do, but I would love to pay you for one-on-one. This is not a service she offers, y'all. She does not offer the service. But because her information for her personal brand is so strong, I am willing to pay in order to get access to the knowledge she has. So this is the reason why y'all need to start waking up. I need y'all to wake up. I need y'all to move away from just scrolling on Instagram. Like if you're not going to be a content creator, and I'm not saying you need to be, and you're just going to be there on the internet all day, you might as well put some productivity towards it. You rather put together a brand for yourself versus just scrolling on someone else's Instagram and saying, oh yeah, I love what they're doing, or I love their brand. Okay, but create your own brand. Why haven't you created one? And the craziest part about everything that I'm saying is that we have been taught the girl boss, hustle, having all this success, finally earning 6 figures is not misery. Okay? And what I mean by that is that, funny enough, I said this recently in a TED Talk. If you have everything on paper and everything feels good, but you feel empty inside, you don't feel fulfilled inside, you really regret some of the decisions you have made, and you don't feel fulfilled, then it doesn't mean anything. It literally does not matter. Success does not matter if you don't feel fulfilled. And people sometimes separate the two. And they don't really reflect. I think a lot of us don't reflect enough. We don't ask ourselves, am I happy? Am I thriving? Am I flowing, right? Just because you have it all together doesn't mean you're happy. So I think that's an interesting paradigm that a lot of people don't think about. And I know for me, when I knew that I was in the right situation, is going back to that job. And I dreaded every time my manager wanted to meet. And I kept saying to myself, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what's happening. I just feel like I'm just here every day. I'm just filling a quota and I don't feel fulfilled, And what was making me more excited was the personal projects I was working on. And when someone reached out to me and say, oh, I want you to do coaching, because at the time I started doing coaching around dating and femininity, and I remember that's what was getting me excited. And I think it's important to understand that um, a lot of us also are so busy in girl boss and hard mode that we're not taking time to fulfill our bodies. And we're women. As women, we have to take care of ourselves, okay? I am 37. I still look young. I still look fresh. My skin is still bouncing, okay? Because take care of myself. I slowed down enough to walk outside into nature. I slow down enough to do restorative activities like Pilates and yoga, right? Or bar, one of those three I tend to try to do. You know, one of the things I know I need to do is get on my diet, right? And eat. But I felt like when I was constantly hustling and doing all the things, I was so into treating my body like a machine that I wasn't realizing this title doesn't fit me anymore. Sit with that. Okay? So your body is working, working, working. But what you don't realize is that you've outgrown the title that you have bestowed upon yourself, right? I am the VP, I am the manager, I am the director. What's more interesting is I started a series where I started interviewing executive women. And what I realized was that, weirdly enough, and I don't know if this was just by coincidence, I probably interviewed 10. Three of them, after the interview, maybe like 4 or 5 months later, left their jobs or were laid off, right? And these were women who prized themselves off of these executive titles. Almost everyone I interviewed was a C-suite. And a lot of them did an Eat, Pray, Love. They just traveled around the world. And I think they all started asking themselves, am I in the right position? I was so tied into working at this so-and-so company, and I never thought about myself. And I never thought about, how to treat myself. And I never thought about, what does success look like for me? Because success is not only about money. And that's the other thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about, which is why I feel like there's higher rates of suicide, is we also are not considering our mental wellness. We're not considering that that is a key thing in everything that we're doing in life. And we don't realize that our well-being is as important as the money that's in our bank account. And the money doesn't mean anything if your wellness is not intact. And I call this the shift, right? And the shift is not just about quitting your job tomorrow, but it's about shifting your perspective and your identity away from your performance, right? And your output. And the reason why I keep emphasizing girl boss is dead, right? Is because I feel like that whole lean in movement and, you got to bring your own table and all those things didn't really consider how women's bodies work and didn't really consider how high level stress we are contributing to diseases like, diabetes, like hypertension, like, blood pressure, like all, and even autoimmune. I've actually seen an increase of women who are in their late 30s and 40s getting autoimmune diseases because they're not taking care of their bodies. They're not taking care of slowing down and breathing and relaxing and just enjoying life. They're not taking enough vacations. Actually, I was just speaking to a woman who was saying that she's in a career that she doesn't know when she gets a PTO. And I thought that was crazy. She was essentially saying that she worked like a whole year, did not take any vacation off, and then realized she accumulated over 60 hours of PTO that she never took, and pretty much she couldn't roll it into the next year. That's crazy to me. I can't imagine a year now that I'm in it and I've created balance for myself and I have removed myself from the identity of the girl boss, the hustler. Oh, I'm perfect because I have this title. I removed myself from that. I actually enjoy that I'm living in my soft era, even though I hate that soft life got a bad rep. And it's something I started back in 2019. I hate that it became this child wife thing. So that's a conversation for another day. But what I will say is that I feel like I love the fact that I live softly. I love the fact that I vacation. I love the fact that I made sure to marry a man that invests in me, right? And I also, again, quick dating tip, if you're gonna marry, at least marry a man that's ready to take care of you when you're pregnant. If you want me to talk about why, that's a whole nother conversation. Comment below, we'll have that conversation. But I think it's important to remove yourself and your identity from that title, remove yourself from, the only way my life is going to work and operate is if I'm in high performance mode and I'm consistently optimizing for being my highest self. And also, the real conversation we need to have is that I also feel like the advent of social media, interestingly enough, I've seen a huge increase of videos talking about productivity and these like 5 a.m. routines, oh, I hate this thing. The dropper, this is the product I like, but the dropper is, it's like water all over my head. But yeah, there's been this huge increase of like my 5 a.m. routine, my 6 a.m. routine, how to live my most productive life. And I'm like, yo, that's not realistic. Most people I don't think are waking up at 5 a.m. I think that's a lie. I think it's BS. I don't think people are waking up at 5 a.m. I don't think people have this super structured routine. I think most people aspire to, especially if you're working, they aspire to work up at a similar time frame. They aspire to go to the gym, and maybe they aspire to eat a specific type of meal or breakfast every day and go to work. But I think it doesn't work like that. And I think we need to start to have real conversations of what it looks like to live our best lives, what it looks like to live a life that's productive, but also is meaningful and fulfilled. And also, I think it's important to talk about it's okay to be messy, and it's okay to not have this super structured life every day, I know for me, I've said to myself, I just need to make sure I wake up at 7 a.m. every morning and move my body every day. But the past 2 days, I was unable to do that. I needed more rest. And I didn't kill myself for that. I didn't kill myself for that. But I think the last thing I want to say here is making sure we move away from that output. We move away from constantly feeling like our life is a performance. And if you feel like, and I'm more than happy to recommend some books. I think the book that really speaks to this section right here is The Body Holds the Score. A lot of us, I think, are holding trauma. We're holding a lot in our bodies. And we don't really realize that this perfectionism, this high performance is tied to something from our childhood. And I know for me, a lot of times, me getting the perfect job and me consistently saying, oh, I have to level up, I have to level up, I have to be like this, comes from being a first daughter in a first gen family in a situation where there was no room for error. And I had to constantly be perfect. I didn't have a chance to fall all apart. I felt like I was constantly put on a pedestal. Literally the other day I was with my father and first thing he said is like, oh, she went to Georgetown, she went to Georgetown. And I'm like, I went to Georgetown 10 years ago, but that's the thing he's still positioning. And I feel like I had to do a lot of therapy and work in order to work through what it looks like not to feel like I have to be perfect, what it looks like to unravel, to unbecome, if that's even a word. And I feel like I had to do that in order to let go and figure out what does that dream career look like for me in a world that is constantly forcing you to be perfect. So here's a few tools that you can use in order to audit your career and really just audit your life, right? Because your career is a huge part of your life. So number one, I talked about this earlier, which is the energy audit. So again, putting together a list and writing down, does it fuel me or does it drain me, right? And if drain is 90% of everything you're seeing, then it is a career trap. You are in the wrong career. I don't have a mental breakdown now, okay? But you need to now start to dig deeper and ask yourself, okay, how do I pivot into the right career? And don't worry, the video I will be posting at some point this month, we're going to talk about career pivots and how to do it, especially because I was a recruiter. I was in HR, so I have done it multiple times and I know what it looks like. The other thing is doing this quick exercise, the identity minus the title. And I want you to describe yourselves in 60 seconds without your title, without I work at this career or this company. I want you to do it because most people, like I said, identify with where they're working at, identifying with the type of career they're in. Can you describe yourself with just saying, I am a daughter, I am a wife, I am a friend, and these are the things that bring me joy. This is how I pour into people. Like, something interesting, especially because I feel like, and I'm so into, this is another book I'm going to recommend because I think this will help with this activity as well. I love The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. It's one of my favorite books. And he has a whole section about being anti-seductive. And I feel like anti-seduction is anytime someone is like, oh, what do you do? Or who are you? And you just immediately go into like, oh, I work at this company, or I'm a VP, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that can't be your life. That can't be your life. I'm gonna tell y'all an interesting story, right? About this in particular is there's a girl I met many years ago, and her whole identity was tied into being an executive. I believe she was in C-suite. And that was all her identity. That was her whole thing. She would consistently brag about it. And even to the point where she would, because she was in the type of industry where she was consistently exposed to celebrities, so it was always like, yeah, like, you know, I met so-and-so, I met so-and-so because I'm this executive. And I met this celebrity, I met this person. Do you know they laid her off? And I could see that transition of her scrambling because she didn't know who she was anymore. And to be honest, I still think that person is confused. I still don't think they're clear on who they are or what is their identity outside of work. And this is why I keep stressing, so it's so important. If you don't hear nothing else I said, if you don't hear nothing else I say today, is you have to figure out who you are outside of your work. You have to. You have to, especially if you're dating and you're in your 30s and your 40s. Men don't care about you're a VP somewhere. That's not interesting to them. What's interesting is, are you soft? Are you feminine? Are you pleasant? Are you joyful? That's what they care about, okay? So this exercise, I feel like, will change your life, and it will just make you appreciate how you connect with people, and people will also be more interested in you. And finally, the shift, which is the vetting list. And I want you to write down some questions you're going to ask yourself next time you apply to a new job or you get offered a new opportunity. And these questions should be written in such a way that by the time you go through this checklist, right, or this vetting list, it pretty much will align, okay, is this another job that's going to put me in a cage or a prison? Or does this job gonna set me up for my freedom? And it's gonna be a simple exercise that you do a checklist, and every time you are looking at a new opportunity, a new job, it will put you in the right direction, right? And I think you should even ask yourself, if work-life balance is important to you, make sure it's part of the list. If you know a job that has stock options because you want to be able to get an exit, right? Maybe you work at a company for 3-4 years and you get an exit, and that's important to you, put that in the list. But make sure you put the list in such a way that when you are negotiating with a recruiter, this list is something you refer to. And also negotiate. I say this time and time again, as a recruiter, most women do not negotiate. They do not negotiate their salary, the benefits, and even their positioning. I know for me, the last job I was in, not only did I negotiate my salary, but I did negotiate that you are going to pay me and I'm going to be working remotely. And I don't care if everybody is back to the office. I will not be in the office because I have been working remote pre-COVID, okay? So making sure that that is also part of your negotiation, and you always negotiate for what you want. I want you to understand you have the permission to live the life you want. So I want you to stop postponing your real life for your career that will replace you in 24 hours if you drop dead. I want you to sit with that. Stop postponing your life for a career they will replace you in 24 hours if you drop dead. If you don't hear anything else, hear that. We're going to have another video on Wednesday. And in Wednesday, we're going to do a deep dive psychology around identity, around living the life that you thought you would have. And then on Friday, we're going to drop another video, and I'm going to talk all about relationship dynamics. So everything from dating to friendships. Make sure you subscribe and send to a friend because we're all on this journey together. All right. See you on the next video.